Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Loryn, and I am the author of basically everything on this channel except for a few co-authored projects. Today, I have another chapter of Double Take, or as the original title was, Blossoms, Bullets, and Blades. The next chapters will have the correct new title unless anyone likes the old one better. Whatever, let me know. Again, I'm not saying much about this series, so you're gonna have to listen and find out. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Blossoms, Bullets, and Blades. Chapter 2, Jericho. Pop, 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 pop. Jericho squinted down the scope of his rifle before lifting it away from the target, flipping the safety, and drawing the target to him while uncovering one of his ears. His friend next door, Blair, was still firing off rounds, but he also liked wasting ammo. Jericho didn't. He liked being exact, precise. The more precise he was, the less waste he created, the less shells he had to collect from the crime scene. It says search for found. He counted the shots too, always. Each round he fired off, he remembered. He wasn't especially a fan of firearms, he was just good at it. He'd been an exceptional marksman since he was a child, and his skill had only grown with maturity and patience. He thumbed over the tiny round bullet holes placed strategically on the target. He'd placed one in the forehead, one in the heart, and two for the eyes. One of the eyes was a little off, but it was good enough for the day. After a few more shots, his friend paused and poked his head around the range dividers. "How'd you do?" he asked with a smirk. "Perfect as always, huh?" "I was a little off on one of the shots, but otherwise I did fine. Yourself?" "So-so. I really have to practice with these things more." "You do," Jericho murmured. "Or you could go back to your desk job. You do not have to be a man for hire." His friend scoffed. "You're making us sound like strippers." "I'm making myself sound like a stripper," Jericho corrected. "You're still a shot girl since you haven't had your first job yet." Okay, wow. I've only ever been nice to you, and you have to go and insult me this way. "It's hardly an insult, it's the truth. You should stick to working with electronics. It is lucrative." Jericho put his gun down, adjusting his jacket on his shoulders, "and safe." "Maybe I'm tired of safe. Did you ever think I may be tired of always playing it safe?" Jericho stared down the range, blinking once before turning back to his friend. "We don't do this because we are looking for a thrill. If you want a thrill, go skydiving." Jericho grabbed his friend's target and surveyed the mass of haphazard bullet holes. "You go skydiving," Blair shot back with a smirk. "How'd I do?" "Terribly. You need more practice." "Good thing I have an expert marksman as a best friend, huh?" He slapped Jericho's shoulder. Jericho grunted. "Good thing." He studied the target for a few moments longer before passing it back to his friend. "You will get better with practice." "Thanks. We're on for next week?" "Of course." Jericho unloaded his gun and collected the casings. "I have a meeting to get to in about an hour." "Is it for—" Blair's question trailed off. "Yes." Jericho paused and wet his lips. "Can you do me a favor?" "Sure. What's up?" "I need you to look into something else for me." "Business or personal?" "It straddles the line." "All right. What is it?" Jericho sucked in a breath. "It's a watch." Blair chuckled. "This is personal." "Well, it's an ugly and gaudy watch, so I assure you, it's not something I intend to add to my collection. Have you ever heard of the Chopard?" "Can't say I have, man." "It's a 201-carat watch with over 800 diamonds on it. It is absolutely hideous, but I need to know who is in possession of it right now." "Open?" "No." Blair nodded. "You got it. Give me a few days." Jericho rested a hand on his friend's shoulder. "Thank you. Until next week, you need to practice your stance and your trigger control. You are too heavy-handed when you fire. If this is the way you treat your partners in bed, I understand why it has been a minute for you." He smirked. "Hey, unkind. How are you going to ask me for a favor and then insult me?" "Easy." Jericho packed his belongings away, including the shell casings, and hoisted a matte black gun bag over his shoulder. "Last thing before you get out of here." Jericho paused, glancing over his shoulder at Blair. "Hmm? You hitting the art opening later this week? Staying cultured?" "I had plans to, but it depends on the work situation." Right. Well, I'll check in. Be well. Jericho nodded and stepped over the threshold. He nodded to the bored teenager working behind the counter, issuing all manner of people guns, ammo, and a paper target, and held the door open for three giggling mid-20s women nervous about their selected outing. He taxied over to the Velvet Rose, deposited his guns into a room, and then beelined to the bar, taking a private seat. A server circled the room, delivering food and refreshing drinks until she gradually reached Jericho's table. My usual, please, he said without even glancing her way. An old-fashioned? He nodded, and put it on my room tab. Thank you. No problem. She nodded, curly ponytail bouncing behind her. I'll be right back. She stayed true to her word and returned with his drink in less than 5 minutes, placing it on a napkin in front of him. He tasted it, pressing the glass to his lips, and nodded. Good, thank you. She smiled. Is there anything else I can get you? I'm meeting someone. You can add his drink to my tab, too. Sure thing. We'll make a note. Jericho sipped his drink as she bounced away, returning to other needier customers. People came and went as the night wore on. Jericho checked the time, sliding the sleeves of his blazer and button down up his arms, revealing a watch on each wrist. One said 10:50, and the other said 8:50. He had 10 minutes, so he closed his eyes. The back of his eyelids was empty, dark and swirling with a tint of red. Gideon! A deep baritone voice greeted him. He cracked his eyes open, studying the older man before standing in greeting. Zavyalov. He gave a slight bow. Please take a seat. Thank you. A thick Russian accent painted his words as the man sat down across from Jericho. Jericho sat afterwards. How may I be of service to you? From the inside of his jacket, Zavyalov pulled out a cream folder and placed it on the table. He paused, peering around the room with watery blue eyes, and then pushed it across the table. If you would be so kind. Jericho opened the folder, flipping through copious reports. The first few pages were pictures of the target, and the rest was informational. The target appeared to be a middle-aged man with a pinched rat face, a round body, and wispy hair on top of a balding head. He looked, well, normal, but in the world they lived in, normal was anything but. The photograph showed the man getting in and out of vehicles, looking over his shoulder when entering various buildings, and meeting with characters who looked far more suspicious than him. His whole demeanor was of a marked man. He was probably a squealer. This is Kachusov, a sniveling rodent who has been stealing from me for years. Zavyalov hissed as if even saying his name was poison. Why now? Before he was no threat to me. Now he has his own crew of men, men he poached from my ranks. He has his own services and dealings, ones he stole from me. My people can do many things, but one thing they cannot do is take my offerings, take my safety, take the bread from my table, and not honor me with loyalty. He spat. I want him erased. Jericho continued browsing through the folder, unbothered by Zavyalov's prickly disposition. Full service will be extra. Zavyalov sneered. Are you in any place to put limitations on your services? Jericho glanced over the folder. The back of his neck tingled, but the man was right. He was in just as precarious a spot as Kachusov, but he had more to offer this world than his newest mark. Killing one man is an afternoon stroll, but to erase this mess he has started requires a little more time and significantly more supplies. A growl hung in Zavyalov's throat as cold eyes bore into Jericho. Apologies for the inconvenience, Jericho added, continuing his peruse through the collected information. I respect you for cleaning your own messes. The man leaned back in his seat, digging into his pockets. He retrieved a small collection of shining silver coins and stacked them neatly on the table. Will this be enough compensation for you? 6 silver coins was not even close to enough. One dead body was worth 1 gold at the very least, but Jericho was also in a tight spot. There was more at stake than quibbling over fair pricing. The price, however, wasn't the problem. The price was low. They both knew it. It was laughable, in fact, almost more of an insult than refusing to pay. At the end of the day, Jericho had to perform, whether he gave him extra coins or not. Offering him a measly 6 silver was a reminder of his previous standing and how far he had fallen. Before he could have sent Zavyalov on his way, laughing at the pitiful offering. Now he couldn't. Now he was forced to accept Zavyalov's offering and smile while he did it. Jericho ground his teeth as he scanned the area, biting back a slew of insults and taking a deep breath. How soon? Presently. I'll do my best, he muttered, closing the folder and placing it back on the table. He slid the stack of silver coins closer to him, placing them one by one on top of the folder. If there is nothing else, Zavyalov prompted, it was a pleasure speaking with you. The pleasure is all mine. Jericho paused at the fourth coin, tapping the surface of it before he pushed his chair back and stood up. He bent forward into a bow as Zavyalov stood and mirrored him. His wasn't as deep, but it didn't have to be. Zavyalov left, and Jericho stayed standing, drumming his fingers on the table before he pocketed the coins and grabbed the folder and his watered-down drink. He moved from his table to the bar and sat down at the far corner. Hi, I can get a new one of those for you, the bartender chirped as she approached him. Her frizzy hair bounced with her movements, and her brown doe eyes glanced from the sweating drink to his face. No, this one will do, thanks. Are you sure? She lifted both eyebrows. Your new client didn't seem too enjoyable to talk to. I can understand if you may want something a little stronger now, or at least something fresh and not water. I'm fine, truly. Has it been a quiet evening for you? Relatively, she admitted, quirking her lips into a shy smile. 3 more days and I'll be through week 1. What day? I started last Wednesday, so come Wednesday I'll have completed my first week of work ever. Ever? She nodded. Ever. Interesting choice of first jobs. She shrugged. I like mixing drinks and talking to people, and some really interesting people come through here. You have no idea. Jericho swirled his drink, mixing the layer of water with the layer of alcohol before he put it to his lips and gulped it down. It wasn't pleasant, and his face screwed up in a wince as he placed the glass back on the table. The bartender giggled. I told you I could have gotten you another. Jericho shook his head, and I said no need. She lingered in front of him, twisting back and forth, desperate to stay in his company, but out of logical reasons to do so. Jericho pressed his lips together and frowned as he suppressed a smile. You've got new customers on the far side of the bar, and I should be going. Oh, right, her cheeks flamed. Have a good night, okay? You too, and cheers for making it halfway through your first week of work. Jericho grabbed the folder and coins and exited the bar. I hope you enjoyed this installment of Double Take. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. If you want to know when the next one is released, you can subscribe to my channel. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.